This is the Tokyo Ghoul Anime Guidebook. You may be wondering why I have this guidebook if I don't like the anime. Well, it was a special gift from a special person, and I'm really thankful for this. By the way, if you find this bookstore nearby, go for it. It's a great bookstore. Recommend it. So there's a poster and double-sided. It's actually a pretty nice illustration. There's also another illustration from the other posters and such. I wonder if the staff will get backstabbed. So there's a character profiles, and it's actually pretty nice pages, a really nice description, and there's a lot of good stuff, especially the Omeka guides, the episodes, and the fan arts themselves. I'm not sure if it's from the staff or the fans themselves. Look at that, Sasaki's already hinted. So there's also other good stuff, a little chibi moments, and there's a Jack and Pinto preview, interview with the cast, and there's also a pamphlet that advertises the other series. And there's also a little shorts from them. I want to know Japanese. The ending cards by Ishida himself is actually really nice stuff. But this is where your money comes in. This is the storyboard of Route A by Ishida. That's right, the original storyboard that tells you that SP Studio Period has really screwed up big time. And that's a lot of good potential. That could have been a good alternative. Even if it's different from the manga, it could have been a good alternative with so many other scenes that we could have gotten and other different developments. It's supposed to be Riza being introduced in this part as well. And guess what? Who finds her instead of Kaneki? Toka! Imagine that. Potential wasted. So this is a good guidebook. Actually, I highly recommend it because it's really good stuff. Go for it, guys. Boy, do we have material to go over. And when I say material, I mean not many. In fact, this might be a short edition of the Sparda's World podcast because one chapter was released before I did the recording of the last week podcast, and the other chapter decided to wait until next week because I have no idea, actually. Just because. At first I thought it was a holiday that a lot of magazine publication will be on hold due to the whole holiday season, but there is any. So that means it was just that one series, and because of that, there's no review to cover for the latest of the podcast. So this is going to be a short edition, and by that, we start off with the introduction of Sparda's World Podcast, episode 42. I'm your host, Sparda's 3G, and, there's not much to say for this whole week with the whole taking a break and the whole fall season of anime continued to be on their third episode or even the second one because some came out late, or maybe some of them even go to the fourth episode, but I don't know which series that's at the fourth episode. So a lot of them are usually on the third episode at this point. And, of course, I have not catch up anything else, but I am going to do so later on. And I have not seen any of the third episode of each kind of the series, but everything come out pretty much on a late schedule, at least for Haikyuu. For whatever reason, Haikyuu come out in a much later schedule than the other ones, and that one has actually come out the same time as the other series. So I guess the one that is in charge of that website just gets them to get their episodes late, or it just happened to be Haikyuu only, but who knows. So now we're here with episode 42, and a lot of things has been covered the last week because Nanosu no Taizai and Fairy Tail was released much earlier before the last week podcast recording, and One Piece is not shown this week. There is no One Piece because I don't know the reason. I probably should have searched on the reason, but maybe it's just the fact that Oda wants to take a break. Though there are sources that says that Oda has a little bit of a health issue, but I don't know how long was that ago. But it has been said that it was a health issue that he has been dealing with. It's not. I hope it's not fatal. I hope it's not something that it reminds me of D. Greymon, but hopefully it's just not the case, and hopefully he gets a break that he really deserves and get well very soon. As for Gintama, Sorochi is back and he's healthy as ever, and you can see that his work has not been deteriorated. His art is still intact, still sharp as ever, so that's good news to hear about him Now I'm just hoping Oda would be fine himself as well. So yeah, there is a New York Comic Con that past weekend. Not this weekend, but the last weekend. And I know I haven't covered anything about it, but there's not much to say about the whole Comic Con weekend. I'm not going to go over with the Marvel and the DC Universe side or the Star Wars or anything else non-related to the manga anime. The two news actually. One of them is all about the Masashi Kishimoto, the mangaka of Naruto. He has appeared at the Comic-Con convention, this Comic-Con convention for, I guess, 4 days in a row. And I do believe he went to other places as well. There are interviews scattered around the internet, and there's an interview, personal interview, coming from the Anime News Network, which I think that's the one that a lot of people really are bewildered, or a lot of people are so shocked. Well, not shocked in a bad way, or shocked in a good way. Just shocked because it's just kind of funny to them. You have to read it yourself. It's, these interviews, they're, if you're looking for information on the series itself, you want questions that have never been answered in the manga, you won't get anything in this series. You will get very few what some of the decision, or rather what's the outcome from the outside of the fans. What's the reaction from them, or what's his take on certain things, such as Rock Lee. He would never guess that he would get so popular, and he tried to do it. He tried to put more work on Rock Lee, but he never found the time, so he just dismissed it altogether. It's something like that. But there is some parts that's just, there is a Q&A from the fans. Not much really said there, but only one would try to ask about the tail beast, saying you won't get your answer what you needed. It's more like, I do hope that best. So nothing really come out from this whole convention with Kishimoto in terms of asking about the series itself. But if you're going to ask outside, you will get some answer right there. That being said, there are answers that is pretty much the same that you have heard from the past interviews. So there's not much new materials to behold. But if you like to read them, they're all posted in the Anime's News Network with their own personal one, with the one from the Thursday interview. And I think they got the one from the Apple Store or something like that. I'm not sure what exactly that means, but they have that as well. So you can check them out. Now, the other news is Attack on Titan. They announced it as a big mega storm announcement, and for a general audience fan, it is actually a big announcement. But when it comes to hardcore fans, maybe they don't really care too much, because it just seems like another more of a marketing ploy. But to me, I thought it was actually interesting to see the actual comic artists, the workers, the known one no less, the well-known one, the well-talented, doing the anthologies of Attack on Titan. And of course, a lot of people would think that's a lot of milking on the franchise. Well, here's the thing: that's been like that for 2 years or more now. So this is not new. But I do think this recognition tells me that the series itself is so huge. It's probably the actual Dragon Ball Z second runner, if you ask me, because it just seems like it feels like it has a lot of momentum. It has a lot of popularity, and I was spreading to DC comic. This is not the first not DC comic, but the comic universe itself. This is not the first time too, because they did have a crossover with Attack on Titan and Avengers, no less. So that's a lot of everybody started to know about this series, and it's heavily popular in Japan too. They have this Universal Studios. The sales is over 1.5 million for each volumes. And everything just works their way in. So I know it's not that much of a big deal for the hardcore fan base that just want to care about the series itself, but it's a big deal in some way in terms of marketing and everything else. So good for them. All right, for the Comic-Con, we have I did have the whole reaction for the last week I did it briefly with the whole licensing thing, so you already get the understanding. Yes, they did license 2 sports series. That's good to know. Actually, I think there's 2. Yes, 2 sports series. And, they license other things, but you can check it out yourself. But I am happy that Haikyuu and Kuroko no Basket is, in fact, coming to the United States. It's been such a long time. I actually thought they gave up on sports series in United States, but I guess they're going to give it one more try. All right. So let's talk about what happens this week, this whole past week. Not much to say, but I'd like to cover it with 3 things. So, if you're speaking of Kuroko no Basket, if you're a fan of that series, if you're a fan of the extra game, pretty much the sequel, more or less to say, the sequel of the last series, well, it is coming to an end. And if there is this latest chapter that came out, I believe, this month, and that is the second last chapter, as the next chapter would be his final one. So it is all coming to an end, and because of that, a lot of people already speculated that because of the mangas are going to come into an end, they most likely going to announce by the end that they're going to make an extra game as a movie, because they already announced a movie. So a lot of people would probably figure out the extra game is going to be on the big screen, and I do believe that is the case. And if so, that should be fun to watch. I mean, extra game is pretty much a fan service. And this doesn't really dive in too much into making like a cover up to all the other story elements. I mean, then again, all the story elements is already covered from the last series, so there's no real who is this person, who is that guy, what happened to that person, or anything like that. This one is more like a special treat to the fans, especially that they get the whole generation of miracles all together playing against the supposedly even stronger team, but. Point is, that is the case of like having them to reunite, since we never got that in the manga. I mean, if you count the flashback, sure, but you want to see the present time. You want to get that little extra on there. No pun intended with the extra game. So, I guess this is a nice treat. And you know what? They're not so bad. I enjoyed them. I like the art. I like the whole thing already. There's a nice teamwork. It seems like some of the members will be pointless at this rate, because judging by the latest chapter, but we'll see what happens. Who knows? Maybe the last chapter would just shock me all around. But either way, I thought it was a decent treat for every fan that likes the series. And it is coming to an end. But hey, if it's true about the movie, then that's even a really nice treat. Especially with Production IG having a really good budget anime as of late. And Haikyuu is no exception. So seeing Haikyuu in that really strong light, we're going and guess that the Kuroko no Basket extra game, the movie, will be very, very delight to see. So, now off with the basketball, in with the zombies. Zombies, huh? Well, I guess it's technically anime, but it's more of a CG anime. And if you recall the Capcom famous franchise, Resident Evil, or as in Japan call it, Biohazard, they're actually going to come back to do a CG anime movie, and they're going to release it on 2017. They're going to make another CG movie because, well, the real live adaptation version, or whatever they want to call it, is not so good, at least to me. It's just... It runs its course, and of course that series is coming to an end, so thankfully it doesn't try to hammer in and try to milk the franchise way too much for the big screen. And it does get way too hokey for my taste. I mean, it already got hokey back then, but still, the latest movie did not help. It felt like we went circle or something. It's just weird. Anyway, at least they're making a CG anime movie. It's been a while we've seen a CG movie from Resident Evil, but maybe this one... Since this one is gonna be I guess it's gonna be like a cross. It's like a cell. I think they're gonna make a cell shaded. If I'm assuming, it was gonna have original story. They're gonna have characters from the different games of the franchise. So get your fan service ready, and they have a picture. It has a mention, and hopefully that's the case of being a scary film. I would like to have a horror film from a Resident Evil, because Resident Evil back then used to be scary, you know? It wasn't like a Gears of War, a shooter game. It was actually a creepy, scary atmosphere game. But now that's kind of disappearing, and it seems like Capcom well aware they want to do that again. They want to go back. So with a movie doing that kind of concept, it probably would draw back a lot of fans, and then maybe they would think about themselves of making a game that go back to horror. No more of a crazy action. The guy could do super jump or anything like that. They should go back to horror film, the horror style of the series. That's where their perfect trade is coming from, and that's where they got famous for. So I'm hoping that is the case. I'm hoping they try to reach that to that audience. If you notice, if you're a gamer, you should realize that there's a lot of horror genre coming back in full force. I mean, we got Soma, not to be mistaken with Sokugeki no Soma, but we have Soma, and supposedly they have some creepy atmosphere. And we got newer game, we got like other games that came out before, like Alien Isolation. Some mixed bag, but it is scary in the long. It is pretty scary. And then you got like the famous demo PT, and I played that, and I lost my mind in that game. So, but the point is, these so many horror genre games that's just coming out. Maybe it should be done for the Resident Evil franchise. And I know we're talking too much of the game in this anime manga podcast, but I'm just saying that it should go back to their old roots. So we're going to go back to the actual purpose of this podcast. And as I realize, one series is about to end. That's Kuroko. One series is going to come back in the CG anime universe, and that is Resident Evil. And now we have another anime that's going to come back from the past. Certainly what people like to call it the harem of the anime universe. And that is Tenchi Muyo. You remember that series? You remember how they marketed back in Toonami when we were like during the 90s? Tenchi Muyo, probably a lot of people first harem anime, because it was on Cartoon Network. Well, it's coming back for 4th season. Yeah. If I actually try to retrace back, it is the 4th season. So it's coming back. Tenchi Muyo is in fact coming back for after so long. And I thought it concluded at one point, but then again, this is probably there are harem series that doesn't have a conclusion in terms of who does guy pick. And there are series that the guy does pick a girl in the end. So with Tenchi in at least the anime form, there was no winner. There was no so-called winner on the female side. And because Tenchi just never picked a girl. But now we have a 4th season. Maybe there's your chance now. I strongly doubt it. I think it's just more of a welcome back, an anniversary style or anything like that. Unless they really wanted to conclude something. This series, this franchise, has spanned like 3 OVA seasons. Yes, 3 OVA seasons. I haven't only seen 1 or 2. I haven't seen the newer one with this whole spin-off TV series. And they even have 4 of them. I was like, 4? Whoa, what the hell I'm missing? I only watched the main one. So, I watched the OVA. Only watched, I believe, 1 spin-off. And the movies, I did see the movie that was supposedly taking place in the Tenchi Muyo universe. Not the whole spin-off or anything like that. So, seeing this coming back, it does brings out the nostalgia factor in me. And at the same time, it's one of another case of another series returning again. We have Digimon. We have Dragon Ball. Now we have Tenchi Muyo. It's like, did somebody research on the USA market? Did somebody research on USA audience from the 90s in order to find out what we truly loved? And what something we would get stung in the heart? And it seems like Tenchi Muyo is the case. When you look at Digimon, that's for your kids, inner feeling, inner dreams of the whole we were all kids in the 90s. A lot of us were in the 90s seeing Digimon, and we popularized it. It was going head to head with Pokemon. Of course, Pokemon anime never ended, so Digimon ended, and then we all, ball into tears as little kids. And now we're seeing it again. It's like a whole nostalgia just kick in. Dragon Ball, a battle series. It's been such a long time, but it's such a well known franchise that it just can never stop the hype train. It can never stop the milk train or anything of that. So we brought it back with Dragon Ball Super. Granted, it may not be good, but at least we brought it back. And now we have Tenchi Muyo. Where does it fit the bill? Well, it fits as being the harem of the series, the harem of the entire anime. The nostalgic factor, because we covered the kids, we covered the badass with the Dragon Ball, so now we're gonna cover the harem, and the harem is with the Tenchi Muyo series itself. So we're getting the 4th season, and no more of the spin-off, no more of the OVA, and so I don't know what to expect with this one, but I suppose we're gonna get a preview around November 18th, so we'll see what happens. I can't say I'm too excited, but I can't say I'm that excited, but you know what? I'll give it a shot. It's been a while seeing the Tenchi Muyo franchise, the spin-off and OVA. Felt like we're seeing some Kingdom Hearts stuff, but anyway, it's been a while, so I'll give it a try with this new one. It is a lot of old franchises coming back, as to say, well, we can't do the new franchises because these new franchises are not going to be that marketable. It's like seeing some wrestling. It's like, we keep using John Cena because he's already well known. It's like, can't you not push the newer guys? So I felt like that's the case with Tenchi. I mean, even when I think about it, the series Osamatsu, the supposedly sequel to Osamatsu-kun, that's a sequel, and that's from an old franchise. Granted, I don't think a lot of people knows about that in today's era, but still, the point is, it's just funny how these old franchises just keep coming back in either a newer form or just a remake form. But oh well. Woohoo, it doesn't really bother me too much. It's just kind of funny, that is all. So, Tenchi Muyo. Woohoo, more harm to you. Time for the weekly chapter ranking. There are 3 of them that are missing this week because 2 of them I have reviewed from last week, and they are Fairy Tail and Nanosu no Taizai, as the other one is absent this week because, well, it just is. And that is One Piece. So, no Fairy Tail reviewed, no One Piece reviewed this podcast. But don't worry, next week everything will be normal with all of them returning into normal format, normal scheduling day in terms of leak, of course. So let's go over number 6, Bleach chapter 647. This was a decent chapter. It has a very good hype in the end because it's something that we've been waiting for. This one user going on his Bankai mode, so it's something that we should look forward to next week. And at least they try to quickly, at least it's hasten the pace with this chapter. Not much to say, it's just more action. And we got one new starting lineup in terms of the next fight. So either way, the next chapter should be fun to see. Number 5, Baku no Hero Academia, chapter 63. More of the whole training exam course thing, the practical exam they're doing. They continue off with Deku and Bakugo going against All Might, but for a short while because we shift back to Shoto and Momo, and I thought it was a nice chapter overall with the confidence and the communication issue they had provided, and they actually managed to overcome that for the time being. And, hopefully the next chapter we see show more of the action coming from Shoto and Momo, especially with Momo, which her court has some unique idea. The creation, it could be done with a lot of trickery, and it could be fun to watch in terms of battle. But we'll see what happens if they go focus on more of those group, or they're going to go to a different group in the next chapter. Number 4, Shokugeki no Soma, chapter 139. Thought it was a good chapter. The story is definitely going to shift a lot of focuses, and it's going to It seems like the narration might change a lot, but we'll have to wait and see. It depends if this arc ends with this. If the arc ends with everything going back to normal, as this arc shiftly changed drastically, as they're making the utopia, the dictatorship. Now, some people will have a little iffy feeling about this. I kind of have some iffy feeling, but I'm not gonna give up because it is too soon. It is too early to call. It does feels like one of those normal battle manga, rather than because the whole dictatorship, the ruling over everyone, all Izuma are missing now was a M Bison cap. But nonetheless, the last part of the chapter was something to be delighted to see, especially the reaction of Soma has the face off like, oh really? So I think maybe going a little bit quick in this part, but it seems like we're gonna start getting to a lot of interesting moments coming from the series. So good chapters, bit iffy on the whole plot device and stuff like that, but nevertheless, I think it's gonna be in the long run a good idea. Number 3, Haikyuu chapter 179. This, again, we're getting very close to the end of the whole entire game, and this chapter provided a good emotional sense from the beginning of not feeling being part of the game because of the injury's sake, and it feels like because of one player being missing, everything is going to change the tide, or anything is going to get much worse or not. It's all about being confident and hopefully, believe in the other team, and as well as seeing more of a flashback of the other side of the team member, Tendo, seeing like what his case and showing off once again continuing to show off how much pressure and struggle this game is really providing, and they really give it a sense of that atmosphere around it. So it's a really good chapter. It's getting really close to the end, and honestly, I'm getting a little afraid of this. I don't know if they're gonna win. I don't know if they're gonna lose. There are people will say they're gonna win entirely because it's predictable. It's hard to say because a lot of series can go to the unpredictable route, especially in sports series. I have seen something like that. Some went to realistic, some went to, the usual, but realistic still, and maybe some of them went to unrealistic. But with Haikyuu, everything felt like realistic, and everything feels like so much pressured. So definitely number 3. Number 2. Gintama, chapter 560. It's a welcome back to Sorochi, and boy, he really brought it back with everything he got in this chapter. Not to say he put everything in terms of like the plot element, but in terms of like the writing and in terms of the art, the illustration. I thought this one, it was really good. Felt like Sorochi didn't miss a beat or anything about anything he has. His skills are still shown in a good way, and with the entire idea of the final swords, these guys are getting Toki and everyone else, the 4 Joy. It was providing a really good action scene. Some of the gruesome stuff, seeing the headshots in the greater detail, for whatever reason, it's so gruesome to see those moments. I really wish I'd like to discuss this more in this podcast review site, instead of like, the 3 I've already provided, like Tokyo Ghoul, One Piece, and Fairy Tail. I feel like I would like to replace one of them with Gintama, but maybe in the future time. So in that case, it was a pretty good chapter, a really good treat from Sorochi, and has the ending pretty much indicates they're going to have a boss battle for each one of those Joy members. So it should be interesting to see Kasura in action, especially Sakamoto, if he's going to be by himself, because Sakamoto is all peace and love, but what happens if he gets in one-on-one? Is he really that strong? He seems like he has a reputation of being that scary, but time will tell in that case. And number 1, and honestly, this is not even easy for everyone else to try to top it, because this chapter was outstanding. It was practically is being called the best chapter of the series so far. It's just so good. It's Tokyo Ghoul Re chapter 49. This chapter was outstanding. We're gonna get to that more on it. This was intense. It was gory. It's supposed to be the first anniversary of Tokyo Ghoul relaunch, and boy, did it really show how much he went all out on this chapter. A lot of gruesomeness, a lot of A lot of badass moment, a lot of actions, a lot of craziness, a lot of WTF in a good way, not in a plot hole or like a ass pull way. Just so many good moments. It's a really really good chapter. It's pretty much masterful in some form of way. So yeah, this is the top ranking. Should be interesting to see what's the next week with all the chapters coming back, all the series coming back in normal form, and we'll see what anything would change. But this week, I think this was a good week for these series to be. They all of them are good, and they all provided to be a good one. They all have. A lot of them are all action, except for Soma, because the fact that Soma is still preparing. But hey, when it gets to the whole Shokugeki elements, it's gonna be awesome. So definitely a good week for me. Well, this is the only chapter to review this whole week, but trust me, it's worth it because this chapter came out very early. And I asked myself, wow, finally, an early chapter on a Saturday morning, in my time at least. And I'm thinking to myself, why? Why is it released early? Is there no translation to be done? Is there less talking? Actually, there's a good amount of talking, but I like to believe the person behind this whole translation wants to review this. Wants to translate this chapter, wants to post it online quickly as possible, because this chapter, after reading it 2, 3, 4 times, 5 times, and then I lost count. After reading this so many times, this chapter was intense. But if you want me to tell you what exactly the actual thought of it in terms of quality, I thought this chapter was outstanding. This was one hell of a chapter, an outstanding chapter that a lot of people wonder if we're going to get this crazy intense action from that we all remember from Tokyo Ghoul. Not to say that Tokyo Ghoul is all about action, because it's not really all about action. It's all about the atmosphere, the entire world universe they're living, the whole tragedy, the whole characteristic of them hating this world or have to endure this whole environment, especially with the ghoul side. When you look at the ghoul, have to endure living, hiding from the CGG, hiding from their enemy, it's like, pretty much the world is so, as they would like to say it, fucked up. And this chapter pretty much proven that this world is pretty fucked up. This chapter is so well done. It's great. And, the funny thing is, I don't even think, I have to read this chapter a couple of times because I didn't want it to, let the inner fans get the best of me. And it didn't. Maybe the first time around it probably did, but after reading it and calm myself, I still thought this was an outstanding chapter because everything was so choreographed, and it doesn't. And not only the art was so clean and everything was intense, the presentation it was so choreographed well, and it give you that sense of feeling of how much this means everything, how much each panel means a lot. Even just a normal injury moments, it just give you this sense of idea of what that character is going through, or what that character is feeling right now, or what the whole demonstration supposedly provided to you. It feels like if we get the right adaptation, this will be spectacular. That's how much good this series can be in the anime universe. But it didn't, because we have a butchered edition. But let's not get to that topic. I gotta review this one, and we finally going back with this whole Noro, this whole hype with Noro behind him. I was behind the hype as well because I don't even know what it is. I'm thinking it is not a person. I think somebody would say it's a part of the Kagane of Ito. And you know what? I believe that. It is possibly that is the case. Most likely it is the case. How broken this thing is, I have no idea. It could regenerate. It could kill people in a matter of seconds. It's way too overpowered. So Ito squad and the Q squad have to take one ghoul or whatever it is on, and then they get massacred as soon as Noro starts to attack. They kill pretty much a good portion of the Ito squad in a matter of seconds. They crunch them up. They break them into pieces. You could see body parts flying away, heads and arm coming off, and then the other parts of the body just coming off. And they're like, holy shit, what the hell is going on? Shirazu is just scared out of his mind. I can't even blame him. I probably would have scared out of my mind too. Seeing this scenery is just insane. Like, what the hell just happened? Like, he's just right there 1 second, and then all of a sudden, in like, I don't know, let's just say 5 seconds, he just killed like one or two, or attack one or two, and then devour one of the member in a matter of seconds. Everything is so done by fast. So the reaction from the rookies, Shirazu is right in front and center. You can't really blame him. Then Psycho, of course, she was gonna freak out too because this is insane. This amount of there's so many panels of shock, frightened, and just lost the train of thought. Ito is like trying the best he can. You gotta remember this guy. This guy, he wasn't supposed to get this promotion. He got it because Hiroko wants to continue this whole grudge with Arima, which we don't even know what is that grudge. But here we are now. Now he has to be the squad leader, and he has to put out this whole work. And what he gets is two of his men getting killed right in front of him. And then the whole squad, the whole format is already screwed up because Nora is just so overpowered and it's just so quick. And despite to say, I really like the subtle development that Ure has gone through. As in, like, back then, if you remember the last arc, he was just a guy who was doing it for himself for promotion. He's still seeking for promotion, but he's not doing it by himself anymore. He's doing it with his comrades, his friends, which is the right way to do. The selfish part is still there, but he care about his teammates, and he's trying to protect. He's trying to, he's telling Psycho to dodge, but she's so frozen because, of course, this whole thing is way too much for her taste. And of course, there's these Q squads are rookies more or less. Ure is are like among the best one in there. Shirazu, he's supposed to be a squad leader, but he's lost the train of thought of this whole thing going on. Psycho is still a rookie, but she has a powerful Kagane, which we will see very soon. And when I saw that, I just lost my mind too. So, and Mitsuki, he has learned a lot too. He's more confident. He's not wondering what to do next. He's not stuck in the train of thought, is not stuck of what to do or any strategy. He has developed as well. These are like a very subtle development that we see, and I really like this whole thing. I really like seeing this whole Q squad actually getting their communication well and getting down as a good team. Now, remember in the first chapter or so, they weren't that well of a team, but they definitely were trying to make it up for it, but it took a while. Now here they have to do it, and they are definitely getting much better. So it's really good to see that these subtle moments is really putting them into a format. The only problem right now is that some of them are still rookie, or some of them are still having this issue they have on their personal behalf. Psycho, she got saved, thankfully. And then, Ure, of course, he's pissed off, but in his mind, he was very relieved that Psycho didn't get killed off. So again, it shows more of a subtle development coming from him. And then Nora trying to attack Ure, and Mitsuki is pretty much telling them watch out, watch out. They started to striking back. They all finally get their coordination right. They all finally coordinate together. They all go jump on Noru. Everybody does their thing, which is a good teamwork. Then Psycho, the last but not least, gonna do her work, and that's where we finally see Kagane. And holy crap, I don't even know what is this Kagane. I thought it was gonna be a little tentacles that we saw from the chapter 9 or 8. I don't remember which one. I think it's 9 or 8 or 9. It's one of those two chapters. But this one it looks so like almost a double S ghoul rank level of Kagane. It's so insane. Like, this thing is not human. I mean, okay, it's ghoul, but this thing, I don't know what it is, but to me, it tells me that Noru already got his eyes on her. I do believe that Noru is there to capture at least one of the Q Squad, because if you remember, Kanu is very fascinated of this Q Squad, that he would like to see how they were experimented. So to me, I feel like Noru's job is to try to capture one as he annihilates the others. And because of this demonstration from Psycho, I feel like it is going after her once he recovers, and once it done with dealing with the other squad that is pretty much not at his business. So, again, the Psycho Kagane is insane. I don't even know what the hell is that. But unfortunately, Noru is such an overpowered ghoul, or whatever it is. Maybe it is a ghoul. Maybe it's not a ghoul. I don't even know. It regenerate like it's some metal cooler crap. And Ito is like, what the hell? This is not real. And then he gets struck down. And a lot of people were kind of confused. They think he got stabbed in his rib area, but actually that's his rib cage being opened up. It is so brutal. The thing about this series I always love about this series from Ishida is that he always demonstrates the pain and the suffering in a very realistic manner. Everybody would say it's hot. Everybody would say, like, this is not real. They will feel too much pain. They will feel like they're in a heavily pain. Because a lot of series back then, I mean, I'm not saying this is the only series that showed this much amount of pain, but a lot of series always, make it seem like this is pain is whatever. When they lose their arm, they just keep going like it's no biggie. I mean, I guess you're going to try to make it to a badass way, but some of the times they have to be realistic, and this is like among one of them. But again, from the last chapter, that was truly the case with that character who feeling a very, very sensational burn on his arm. Now we're done with this whole Ito, but again, I do believe that Noru is going to capture one of them, and that most likely be the case in the future, in the next chapter, or maybe or later chapter after that. So we're finally going back with Masume, which, by the way, she kicks ass in the last chapter, and in this chapter, she just keep going. She's on the riot, but Haru, she hasn't died, of course not, but in this case, instead of backing down, I thought she was going to get injured, heavily injured, probably come back for the next arc or the later arc. But instead, she would not have it, and she would go down with a bang. So she asked for that. She asked for one of the Quinque, give it to her, and it ends up being a T human. It's a S plus Quinque. It's an Ukaku one. And at first, I thought this was the same one as Arima. Is similar, but I don't think it's the exact same ones, but it's similar nonetheless. And it seems like the Zero Squad perhaps have their like, the main arsenal, and this is one. I do believe that is the case, or that could be just only for Haru, and she come out with that, and she try to go again once more to kill Masume. Because, she's just that very stubborn to kill all the ghouls. She has that relentless mind of massacre the entire ghoul. Which is unfortunate, because when her normal personality, normal days, her normal personality it's goofy, but I enjoy those moments. But when it comes to ghouls and killing and, doing these operations, she's scary. She's pretty much a psychopath, and this pretty much shows right here, going all the ways just to kill her. And Masame was about to die until Maru went in there and pretty much sacrificed himself for the sake of Master Shu. And boy, he deserved an MVP as well. This guy went in there, he lost half a body. I thought his sacrifice was in vain. I thought Masame either run away or try to strike back, but instead, Maru's just not having it. He's like, I don't give a fuck about this half a body. It's useless. I'm gonna kill you. And he still persisted. And Haru pretty much get the idea this was it for her. This is her end. And before that, it has that one last flashback of Arima and her as a young child in the garden, which I'm starting to think this garden thing has to be revealed at one point. It's because a lot of people have been saying about this whole garden thing, this whole experiment that CGG probably have provided a long time ago. I think that's something what they say, and I have to figure out what is this about. But she was part of it, and I gotta say, for her death, while she did deserve it, I didn't think she was gonna get this amount of death of beheaded and lost an arm. It's insane. It's rather gruesome stuff that I ever seen from this series provided for a while, and now she's dead. Like I said from the last podcast, I wouldn't mind if she didn't die, but if she would have to die, so be it. Like I said, her normal days are like the funny days, but when it comes to being against ghouls in the operation, she's she's another story. She's pretty scary on that boat, and it's unfortunate, but it has to be done. She has to be put down, and that's what she ended up getting. I did like this whole choreograph, this whole display of her death. Pretty much give you the sense of like that was like we had that flashback, which I will admit it did help me to actually feel a little bit sorry for her. I mean, again, she was crazy, so again, she has to be taken out. She has to be dealt with, and I curse Ishida for doing something like that, but yeah, and then you could get the idea of this whole one page of her death, pretty much supposed to be like some dramatic effect, and it worked. It worked in the manga. Anime, if they ever do it with a different studio, this will be very dramatic. I could imagine with no music. I could imagine just hear a thumping sound, just very dramatic moment. But again, rest in peace, Haru. If only you wasn't this crazy, I would be more upset that you have died. So, speaking of upset, there's one guy I'm not upset, and that is Kojima. And Kojima tried to step in because, well, now Haru is taken out. He has the chainsaw already up, and Maru already sacrificed himself. And that was not the case because Maru, again, the MVP, among the MVP, he's not dead. He's got him by the thread, literally. He stabbed him on his arm and pretty much do his final bidding because he has like a few seconds left before he really chokes to death, and Masame comes in, break that arm off, get that chainsaw, and his final bidding word is fanculo, which means fuck off in Italian. It's pretty awesome, actually. This death, I can say well deserved. That this guy was a asshole from the beginning of the introduction, ever since the whole killing these ghouls for fun or killing the ghouls just for whatever means necessary, and made him look like an actual monster compared to the ghoul, which is ironic when you really think about it. But this guy deserved this death, and I could not be any happier to see him get killed, not only by the one that he killed the family members, but getting killed by his own weapon, his own quinque, that chainsaw, from the top of his head all the way from, well, it probably continue off all the way to chop his body in half completely. But yep, again, these two, the Tsukiyama family members, are so badass. They are so incredible, and Masume just keep on getting better and better. Actually, she became one of my favorites. She has done so much. Then, I'm not gonna say it. I'll say it when you ask. If you ever ask what I was trying to say. But she done so much in here, and I really hope she doesn't die. I really hope she doesn't die. Last 2 chapters ago, it gave me that feeling of please don't die. This series has given me a feeling of not who's going to die, but who's going to survive. And of course, Maru is going to die, as he already said. But he did his final strike, a final ambush on Kijima, as Masume does her final. Her last attack on Kojima and pretty much wipe him out, and that's good riddance too. That's one death is good riddance. Rest in pieces. So happy to see that. This chapter was outstanding. The illustration is crazy. I really love this whole thing, and it does provide it to be why this is a seinen. Now I get it in this chapter. I'm not saying the other moments there weren't seinen. It wasn't a seinen level, but yeah, you could pass it. You could tell people like, oh, try to read this. This is not that gruesome. It's like One Punch Man. One Punch Man is seinen, but it's not that gruesome or anything. Of course, the story and the atmosphere of this series, or the last series no less, it is a seinen level tier, but. You could still try to pass along. No, in this chapter, maybe it's going to be a little hard, especially people with weaker stomach, with this whole gore. You got ribcage open up, exposing. You got beheaded, decapitation, losing arms, bodies, parts, anything else. You're getting chased up from the top to bottom, and so on. It's just crazy, crazy shit. I'm telling you, it's crazy stuff. But I read this chapter so many times because this is a lot of gruesome moment, a lot of really cool moment, a lot of nice art. Again, the art in this one, it was great. Everything about it was just an outstanding chapter. If you haven't read the series, if you hear this review and not even read the series, because some people actually do that, but if you haven't, you really should try to read the series from the first one then up to this point, because this is a really good series, a hell of a series. One of them is such a great series, and I hope hearing this review, it will make you try to take a chance or not. But still, outstanding chapter. Next chapter, I don't even know what to expect, but boy, this one left a great feeling. I know that people did die, but I'm talking about this overall quality, and I just can't wait for the next one already. Oh my god. What to make this podcast very short? Well, how about no Q&A this week? Sorry, I couldn't get any questions because I was so distracted with this whole interview that Kishimoto has provided. And I was the first one. Okay, maybe not the first one. I don't want to brag. I don't want to be this egotistical. I'm not that kind of guy. But I was one of the guys that posted the whole interview, and a lot of people came barging in. A lot of people questioned me, anonymous questions and personal questions as well. So I lost track of all this thing. And it's funny because it wasn't that busy this week, but then it got busy with here. And then it all of a sudden got busy in the midway at my work area. It's just funny. I lost so many tracks, so I couldn't get that much Q&A questions. I couldn't get any for this one. But next week, it should be normal as usual. Should be every chapter should be released on the normal schedule, in terms of leak, of course. And everything else, in terms of Q&A, the news, report, the reviews, everything should be normal exactly as it was before. That said, that is it for today's edition of the podcast. Hope you enjoyed this one. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe, continue to support, and, well, I'll see you next time for more Sparda's World Podcast. Take care, everyone.